So ever since Nikon acquired RED, we knew it would only be a matter of time before Nikon came out with a dedicated video camera. And look, here it is. This is the new Nikon ZR. I'm going to say that R stands for RED, but I'm sure the RED employees and staff probably want it to be Ragnarok, so I have no idea if that's true or not, but I'm going to say it's the RED, the Z RED. And I mean, this is a really cool camera because at first I thought, okay, it's going to be this big, bulky box cinema camera, but look what we get here. A very svelte, compact, mirrorless design. I'm Chris Nichols, this is PetaPixel, and we're going to take a first look at the exciting new Nikon ZR. So as I said earlier, this is just a first impressions kind of look. We don't have a ton of time with this. I do foresee us doing a more serious project where we really get to use these cameras, but we do have excellent access today because we have two Z REDs. Jordan's actually shooting me right now on a Z RED, and of course I'm obviously holding this one in my hand. The other thing I want to get out here is you probably notice it's a little bit hazy today. We have this beautiful soft light, lots of wildfire smoke going on, but for photos that sucks. For cinema, it's actually probably gonna look great. So Jordan's really enjoying his extra production value here today. Last thing I want to get across, you know, this is not just like a photo camera stripped down to do video. You know, you might think that's initially what we're going to do. Canon does that a lot with their C series on their cinema cameras. This is actually a dedicated body that's very specific to video. There is a selector switch here to go to photo. It actually goes black there, almost implies the camera's off. You get orange when you go to video. I mean, there's not much for me here. It does take photos. This is basically a Z6 sensor with no mechanical shutter. I'll take a couple shots for you, but otherwise, this is actually be for Jordan. So let's go to Jordan next because you don't want to hear from me about video. You want to hear from Jordan.
All right, it's Jordan Drake, the guy you all want to hear from about this brand new video focused camera. And looking at the body on this, it does look very similar to a classic mirrorless camera, but immediately there's a few things that are going to stand right out. For starters, unlike even the video-focused Z30, we don't have a big grip hump on this. It's actually quite smooth, but because we've got a pronounced thumb grip, it's actually quite comfortable to handhold this. But the big standout feature is the display. I mean, we don't have an EVF, but we have an absolutely giant 4-inch, over 3 million dot LCD on this, which actually can go extremely bright. You can gain this up to 1,000 nits, which means it's actually capable of delivering HDR content in the P3 color space. So you've got this big, beautiful display. My only concern with it is it doesn't actually stick out a little bit like we've seen with some of Panasonic's cameras or even Nikon designs that don't fully articulate like the Z8. So you will find this is constantly bumping up against your mic and headphone jacks. And then right underneath the mic and headphone jack,
Jordan, sorry, the light's actually still kind of harsh even with the smoke.
Oh.
Can we get a flag?
No, we got a thing, yeah. Okay, you, yes, food powered stand, how's that?
Oh, beauty, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So interestingly, although Nikon's been using full-size HDMI ports, because this is such a small body, we're back down to a micro HDMI port on this, as well as a USB-C. Sorry, I gotta stop for a second, not because of the dog there, but just to say, this light looks a lot better because we are using Westcott's fast flag solution, and I absolutely love these. You can get a hard flag, you can get diffusion, you can use it as a bounce, and these are just going to let you control your light in really contrasty situations like we have right now. All kinds of different covers, and setup on this is incredibly quick. If you remember the order to do it, which I didn't the first time around, you can set these things up in like 30 seconds. Let's suppose you find yourself unfortunately friendless. Well, I do also really like that we've got an easy mounting point here so you can just drop it right into a C-stand knuckle if you don't have a friend handy. I'm a huge fan of the Westcott fast flags, and if you'd like to try them yourself, just click the link in the description below or head on over to fjwestcott.com. I love these things, and that's part of why Westcott is PetaPixel's preferred lighting partner. Looking at the rest of the body, you do have quick access to a whole bunch of different, more video-centric controls on it. We do actually have a zoom rocker right around the record button here on the top, and I love that it actually has 2 points on it, so whether you're holding the camera from below or right behind, you still have quick access to it. We also have 3 custom buttons right here. They're laid out for display mode and exposure compensation, but you can adjust those to whatever you want. But I also love that we get an autofocus joystick, and it's not on the top of the camera like some of the Sony designs, so it's still nice and comfortable. We've got a menu button which brings up your quick menu. You actually hold it to bring up the longer menus proper, and a playback button. It is a very minimalist design because they're counting on you using the touch screen on this big beautiful display for most of your camera controls. Now looking at this body, one thing I was expecting to see is a whole bunch of different mounting points with a more video-centric body. We just have one. There's a 1/4-20 tripod mount right on the bottom. It's centered with the lens, and it's still far enough away from the battery door you can access that. But I would expect a few more on a video-centric body around the sides and the top. Fortunately, I mean, we're already starting to see some accessories before release. There's a cage that's on its way from Small Rig, and we're gonna see a whole lot more from different manufacturers, but I would have liked to see a few more mounting points on this. One other weird thing is right on top, we got that classic Nikon hot shoe here, but there's actually electric contacts in it that are gonna open up some audio options that we're gonna talk about a little later. In that aforementioned battery door is kind of interesting. So we've got your classic Nikon EL15 battery that they've been using on a lot of their mid-range bodies for quite some time now. We've got a CF Express B slot, which is very important because this can record all kinds of different video flavors, but also a micro SD. And it's a very functional card format, and the speeds are totally fine for recording video. I just find them kind of fiddly and annoying, so I always complain whenever we see one of these. But let me tell you a little something about Jordan Drake. I don't care so much about what's on the outside. What's really important to me is what's on the inside. And inside this camera, we've got the partially stacked 24 megapixel sensor that we've seen before in the Nikon Z6 and recently in the Panasonic S1 II. And the benefit of having a partially stacked sensor on here is the readout is quite a bit faster than what you see in cameras like the Z5 II or any of the other ones using that older 24 megapixel Sony BSI sensor. That means we can actually record internally at 6K up to 60 frames per second. We can also do 4K 120p with a small crop, and if you do decide to use this for photography, as Chris has mentioned, it's electronic shutter only, but this reads out fast enough. I don't think you're going to see a lot of rolling shutter artifacts in most of your photography. Often when companies release a more video-focused camera, the Canon R5C comes to mind, they'll take the IBIS out of this, but thankfully, we still get that here with the ZR. It's rated at 7.5 stops of stability, right in the middle of the frame, and I actually really like Nikon Stabilization with one caveat, which is, in its standard mode, it will always fight you if you try to pan or walk with the camera. Make sure you set it into sports mode if you're planning to use the camera, or its standard mode if you're just keeping it locked off like we are right now on a monopod. Okay, so everything I've been talking about with this camera, it seems like Nikon could do themselves. Why the hell do they need RED anyways? Well, that's what's really exciting about this, is it's the first time we're actually seeing some of RED's recording formats and the ability to use LUTs that are properly designed for a RED color space here. So alongside the NRAW that we've seen before, ProRes RAW, we now have the option to record in R3D, and this is very efficient video compression. This is why a lot of people will use RED cameras, even though they can sometimes be a little bit unpredictable, because this is such a great file type to work with in post, and it retains plenty of dynamic range. I mean, we've got the forest fires. We're not going to see a lot of contrast today. This is the best we could find, and absolutely everything is fitting in the waveform perfectly right now. This also means if you've got a post-production workflow optimized for RED, you're going to be able to drop these files right in. Now, I should mention, this is not the R3D files that we've seen on all of the other RED cameras before. This is the NE version for Nikon X Speed. Now, one differentiator is that if you buy a proper RED camera, the more modern ones are going to record a 16-bit color space in their RAW format. This is only going to record a 12-bit color space, so you will see a bit of a dynamic range penalty compared to the dedicated cinema cameras, but still very workable and very similar to what we've seen on all of the other RAW recording in other Nikon cameras. Also, RED cameras tend to expose differently than what you see with a regular log profile. That carries over here, so you really want to shoot it at the two native ISOs, either 800 or 6400 ISO. Now, because this is a pre-release camera, I'm not going to be comparing the quality of the different record modes, but I think for most people, it's just going to come down to your workflow. The R3D files will work with a classic RED code workflow if you've worked with that before. The NRAW record mode is going to be great if you're editing on DaVinci Resolve, and then you still have ProRes RAW support if you're cutting on Premiere or Final Cut Pro. Regardless of which record mode you use, those are only going to be able to be recorded to the CF Express Type B slot on this. Even if you kick something out of the HDMI, that's not going to allow you to record RAW video. So effectively, if you're recording RAW video, there's going to be no backup on this camera, and I would really like to see backup recording on Nikon cameras in the future, either through a firmware update or some hardware improvements. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to LUTs. Thank Thank you, Chris. I paid him $10. And with these cameras, previously on Nikon, you had the option to turn on a view assist that would just apply their basic 709 LUT, but that was the only option that you had. Now with this, if you're shooting the Red Raw, you can actually apply up to 10 different viewing LUTs to that. So you can see an image very close to what you envision finishing it in, and that's still going to give you a proper histogram and everything while you're shooting with it. You can download a bunch of official LUTs from Red or upload your own onto it. So we've got a lot of very high-end recording modes and a very small body. So if you're like me, you might be a little bit concerned about the thermals on this, and let me surprise you, there is no fan on this camera, and as Chris said, he is no fan of no fan. Now, we can't test overheating yet. Again, this is a pre-production camera. We will check out and see how the thermals are, but actually the recent Nikons haven't included fans in them, and the Z6 III, the Z5 II are actually very good when recording long clips at high resolution, so I don't know, this might surprise me, but we can't say for now. Now you might not know it from the sound of the babbling brook that's out of frame in this shot, but audio is actually really important. And let's start with the built-in microphone, which I don't give a shit about and most people don't give a shit about. You're gonna plug a microphone into this, but if you do care, there's actually 3 different microphones on this that are gonna allow you to pick up the audio in 5 different patterns that you can select through the menu. There, I have done my obligatory talk about the built-in microphone. What's way more exciting to me is we can record 32-bit float audio. And unlike a lot of other camera systems, we don't have to use the digital interface on this hot shoe here. You plug a microphone into it, you have the option to record in 32-bit float. So we're 32-bit float audio.
Jordan, sorry, can I get the flag? It's contrast.
Flag boy,
yes,
flag boy.
Guy on witness protection program who can't be named.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, thanks to Westcott for those fast flags. There's a good reason they're PetaPixel's preferred lighting partner. 32-bit float audio. Where it's really useful is if you've got something with huge audio dynamics. The first thing that comes to mind is live music, where you've got things that can be very loud and very quiet. If you're using that 32-bit float audio, then you can curve those audio levels afterwards and not have to worry about things getting way too noisy or your audio clipping. So who should be looking at this camera? Well, it's the people who are out there buying FX3s from Sony. And let's look at how this thing compares. Now bear in mind, this is not a production camera and not a review, but even just looking at the core features, you can see some real differences. The FX3 does have a fan in it, and it's just riddled with /20 mounts, which I love. But looking at all of the other key specs, the ZR looks like a better value. I mean, you've got the ability to record internal raw video, you've got higher resolution stills capture, a more effective IBIS unit, a much better LCD screen on it, but there's absolutely no question that the ZR is a better value. This is coming in at $2,200 US, and at a time when it seems like every camera launch I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe how expensive that is. That is actually shockingly affordable for a camera with these kind of capabilities. But as I keep repeating, this is not a review, but I swear to God, this is going to be one of those products we are absolutely doing a review on, because this is an extremely exciting camera. It's not going to be like the Nikon 180-600. I promise you all that. And if you enjoyed this, you know what? You can hear more talk about this camera on the PetaPixel podcast. You can watch it right here on YouTube or listen to it with all your favorite podcasting apps. Just search for the PetaPixel podcast. And you know what's an even better value than this amazing camera? It's getting a PetaPixel membership. Not only will you have no ads on the website, you get a discount at KEH, 5% off used camera gear that you get $15 at the Moment store, and it's only $3 a month or $30 for a whole year. That's a smoking deal. You should definitely sign up for a PetaPixel membership. I'm done talking. This has been Jordan Drake, and we'll see you all soon with more on PetaPixel.